Are there any kids out there? I sure hope so. Let's see what we're going to learn today. We're going to continue our year-long Bible journey. In the Old Testament today, we're going to learn about Esther. She was a queen. Let's find out more.
Slapstick Theater. Esther's Request to the King. This is Esther, who was a Jewish orphan who lived in Persia during the reign of King Xerxes. Esther was adopted by her relative, Mordecai, who worked in the palace of the king. Once, Mordecai had even saved the king's life.
Yep.
Esther became the queen of Persia, but no one knew she was a Jew because Mordecai told her to keep it a secret. This is Haman, who was the second most powerful man in Persia. Haman hated Mordecai because Mordecai wouldn't bow down to him. So Haman convinced King Xerxes to make a decree to kill all Mordecai's people, the Jews. When Mordecai learned about this, he was very upset, as were all the Jews in Persia. When Queen Esther's servants came and told her about how upset Mordecai was, she sent one of her servants, Hatach, to go to Mordecai and find out what was troubling him. So Hatach went out to Mordecai, and Mordecai told him of the plan to kill God's people. Mordecai said that he wanted Esther to go to the king to ask for him to save the Jews. Esther knew that anyone who went to the king without being called could be put to death. But Mordecai reminded Esther that she may have been made queen for such a time as this. So Esther asked for the Jews to fast for 3 days. Then Esther put on her royal robes and went before the king. When the king saw Esther, he was happy to see her and asked, "What do you want, Queen Esther? I will give it to you, even if it's half the kingdom." So Esther asked the king if he and Haman would come to a banquet that she had prepared for them, and the king agreed. Esther held a banquet and then asked the king and Haman to come to a second banquet the next night. That night, the king was reminded of how Mordecai had once saved his life. King Xerxes decided that he must honor Mordecai and that Haman would help. Then, at the second banquet, Esther told the king about the plot against her people. The king was angry and asked, "Who would do such a thing?" Esther said it was Haman, and the king ordered Haman to be killed on that very night. But the decree to kill all the Jews was still in place, and the Jews were still in danger. So Mordecai asked the king to issue a new decree so that the Jews could defend themselves. The king did, and the Jews defeated all their enemies. God's people were saved and celebrated their great victory.
Let's meet Esther, who was brave and a beautiful queen. She heard a terrible plan of someone who was mean. The man's name was Haman, and he hated Mordecai. Haman made a decree to kill all of his kind, and there was nothing he could do. Mordecai said to Esther, "Tell the king something's amiss." He said, "What if you were made queen for such a time as this?" Esther knew she'd get in trouble for going to the king, so she asked for the Jews to pray for her, and waited 3 long days. happy he said he'd give her anything. Esther held 2 banquets and told him everything. The king was angry and asked who would do such a thing. Who would do such a thing? Esther said that Haman was the man, the one who came up with the plan. Haman was terrified, he went pale with fright. The king ordered Haman killed on that night. That very night. But the plot was still in place and the Jews were in harm's way. The king issued a decree, defend yourselves however you may. The Jewish people were saved because of Esther's bravery, and the Jews celebrated their victory. Their great victory.
This week, you learned about Esther, who was a very brave queen. God helps us to be brave even when things are difficult. Stick around to hear more of our year-long Bible journey. I'll see you next time.